wishing there was something left to lose.
Swim. Let's print. This fish is swimming. And lastly, we have hawk. But if you have hundreds, that's going to take a lot of effort. I'm going to method. Let's print something as well. This animal is sleeping. And we now have our animal class. Now let's create separate classes for specific types of animals. Let's say a class for rabbit, a fish, and a hawk, so we can make objects of those classes. So let's begin with a rabbit class. Class, rabbit. Now to use inheritance, with the class that you intend to be the child class, after the class name, add a set of parentheses, and then pass in the name of the parent class. In this case, it's going to be animal, so we will add that to the parentheses. So now rabbit is the child class, and animal is the parent class. So the child class is going to inherit everything that the animal class has. So for the time being, I'm going to type pass. So this rabbit class will have access to a class variable called alive, and an eat and sleep method. So let's define a fish and hawk class. And I'm just going to copy what I have here and just change rabbit to fish. Animal is the parent class, and it has 3 children, a rabbit class, a fish class, and a hawk class. And for the time being, we're just going to write pass as a placeholder. So I bet we can create objects from these classes. So let's do so. Let's say we have an object called rabbit. Rabbit equals rabbit. Let's do the same thing for fish and hawk. Alright, we now have 3 objects, rabbit, fish, and hawk. And let's take a look at their class variables. I bet they have an alive variable. Let's check that. So I would like to print rabbit dot, oh, would you look at that? This rabbit, look at their class objects, rabbit, fish, and hawk. And let's take a look at their class variables. I bet they have an alive variable. Let's check that. So I would like to print rabbit dot, oh, would you look at that? Well, that's because we used inheritance. So each Now to use an it to 3 hawk.sleep. So we would change methods as is animals and so in conclusion, classes can have children. The children classes will inherit everything that their parent classes can. If you would like a basic.
Stop taking meeting notes and let ClickUp AI Note Taker do it for you. It allows you to focus on your meetings, not.
Hope you're doing well, and in this video I'm going to explain how multi-level inheritance. Alright, welcome back everybody. Let's talk about multi-level inheritance. This is a concept where a derived class, also known as a hierarchy of a live attribute set to true. And all animals eat, so let's define a function that does that. At least I believe all animals eat. So let's define a function that does that. At least I believe all animals eat. Let's pretend that they do. So this animal is eating. And now, why stop there? Let's create a class for a specific type of animal. I like dogs, so let's create a dog class. Class dog inherits from the animal class. And all dogs should be able to bark, so let's create a function to do that. And we'll print this dog level inheritance class. So it's kind of like this dog class is the child, animal class is the parent, and then the parent of the parent class would be like a grandparent, right? And then if you added another layer on top of that to this hierarchy, well then the parent of the grandparent would be like a great working. So let's call our dog. And our dog object received should have access to an attribute named alive. And our dog object receives that attribute from the organism class. And this will print true if I were to print whatever this attribute contains. And our dog should be able to eat because it receives this method from the animal parent class. And lastly, our dog should be able to bark, and that method is defined within its own class. It's a concept where a child class will inherit from another child class. I like to think of it like where a child class will inherit from another child class. I like to think of it like a family tree, where a child class will have a parent, and the parent of that parent would be like a grandparent, basically. So if you would like a copy of this code, I will post all of this to the comment section down below. But yeah, that is how, bro. Hope you're doing well, and relax, and enjoy the show. Multiple inheritance is the concept where a child class is derived from more than one parent class. Here's an example. Let's say that all of our children classes are going to be certain types of animals, and we would like our animal classes to inherit from either the prey parent class, the predator parent class, or both depending on what type of animal it is, because some animals in the animal kingdom can be both prey and predators. And one example that comes to mind would be fish. Fish will eat smaller fish, but also can get eaten by larger fish. So here we have two classes, prey and predator. Each has a dedicated method. If a class inherits from the prey parent class, they will have access to a flee method, which will print. Class will have access to a hunt method. They can both flee. And that's, let's say we have class rabbit, and rabbit will inherit from the prey class because rabbits are typically prey and not predators. But I don't know, there could be some killer from the, can be both with a comma. Now so prey, comma, predator, and we just separate each class with a comma. Let's create an object. Fish objects inherited should have access to a hunt method, and if you take a look on the right hand side of this pop-up window, it shows the class that it inherits. inherited this method from. So flee comes from fish can both flee.
Reid Hoffman founded LinkedIn and sits on the boards of Microsoft and Shopify. He is one of tech's most respected.
And this more closely to call multiple methods sequentially, of how for simple message beginning with say we little something like this that we would so normally down to a new line, so it'll look something like that. And this backslash might be inserted. This is a line continuation character. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your bro. Hope you're doing well. And in this video, I'm going to explain how abstract classes work in Python. So, hey, what's going on, everybody? It's how to Alright, everybody, let's talk about method chaining. Method chaining is used to call multiple methods sequentially, and each call performs an action on the same object and returns self. Here's an example of how method chaining would be useful. Let's say we have a class named car. Car has 4 methods: turn on, drive, brake, and turn off. They will all just print a simple message beginning with turn on. Turn on will print, you start the engine. Drive will print, you drive the car. Brake will print, you step on the brakes. And turn off will print, you turn off the engine. Let's say we have a car object. Car equals car. And I would like my car object to use its turn on method immediately followed by the drive method. With how we've been coding things previously, we may write something such as the name of the object, in this case car, dot, and then the method to use. I would like my car to use the turn on method, followed by car, you start the engine, and you drive the car. Now, with method chaining, we can call multiple methods sequentially. Now, the format on this is going to be a little bit different. And if we were to write the same code using method chaining, it might look a little something like this. After the first method call, we would add dot, and then an additional method that we would like to call. So, for example, after the turn on method, we'll immediately call the drive method. But there's one more thing that we need to add when we're using Python to do method chaining. So normally, this by itself will not work. When we call a method in Python, if there is nothing that is returned, Python will return none. So as you can see here, attribute error, none type object has no attribute of drive. So we need to return self under each method that we're using method chaining with. So let's add return self to each of these methods. So let's do that for drive, brake, and methods for each method that we're using method chaining with. So let's add return self to each of these methods. So let's do that for drive, brake, and the turn off method. And this should work now. You start the engine, you drive the car. So think of it like this. After we finish calling this method, Python is going to return self. So it's going to return car. So then we'll immediately use car.drive. Now here's another example. Let's say I would like to call the brake method followed by the turn off method. So that would be car.brake, parentheses, followed by dot turn off. So this will print, you step on the brakes, you turn off the engine. Now here's an extreme example. Let's say we would like to call all 4 methods in order. So that would be car dot turn on dot in order, starting with the leftmost method. You start the engine, you drive the car, you step on the brakes, you turn off the engine. Now, if you have one long method chain like this, it might become difficult to read after a while. So what I would recommend if you're doing a lot of method chaining is that after each method call, just hit enter to move each method call down to a new line. So it'll look something like that. And enter to move each method call down to a new line. So it'll look something like that. And this backslash might be inserted. This is a line continuation character. So this is a little more readable, but, you know, it still does the same thing, basically. Alright, everybody, so that is method chaining. It's used to call multiple methods sequentially, and each call performs an action on the same object and returns self. If you would like a copy of this code, I will post all of this in the comments section down below. But yeah, that is how to do a method chaining in Python. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your bro. Hope you're doing well, and in this video I'm going to explain the super function in Python. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Well then, since you clicked on this video, I should probably discuss the super function. Now, the super function is used to give access to the methods of a parent class. It returns a temporary object of a parent class when used. Here's an example of why this is a class called rectangle useful. Let's take this program that I've written. There's 3 classes, a class called rectangle, which is the parent class to 2 children classes, square and cube. And all we're doing is creating a square object and a cube object, but we need to pass in a length and a width for squares, and in classes, square and cube. And all we're doing is parent class to 2 children classes, square and cube. And all we're doing is creating a square object and a cube object, but we need to pass in a length and a width for squares, and a length, width, and height for cubes. Now, with programming, we don't like to repeat code, we like to reuse code. And if you take a look within my init methods for both square and cube, we're repeating self.length equals length and self.width equals width twice for our init methods. So one thing that we can do, any similarities between the square and cube class, we can place within the rectangle class and then reuse this code. So what I'm going to do is copy this init method within our square class and paste it within our rectangle parent class. And then in order to access this init method, we can use the super function. So we no longer need these 2 lines of code. What I'm going to do is super function. So we no longer need its init method. So we're going to type super parentheses dot and then the name or the function of the parent class that we would like to use. And I would like to use the init method, but function of the parent class that we would like to use. And I would like to use the init method, but I need to send a length and a width because it requires that. So let's send these. So we're going to pass in our length and our width. And now we can do the same thing for our code because we will be reusing this line in to assign the height because that's a difference between our square and cube class. And now we can just reuse this init method within the rect are assigned to these attributes. And one way that I think would be fun would be to create an area method for squares and a volume def area times self dot width. And we can create a volume method within